Quick, plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. Wait, what does that do? Are they trying to make him look like the bad guy? I thought this was supposed to be positive for Donald Trump.
You and I could talk all day.
Yeah.
And it's a shame what's happened to the United States.
What was that? If the Taliban are more capable of following Twitter's terms of service. Cope. That's pure cope. Is YouTube gonna demonetize me for being racist again? I don't know.
And they sent out millions and millions of ballots. Nobody knows where they went in so many cases.
I don't think that's true at all.
There were a number that perhaps didn't go out to vote who would have done because they felt disgusted with the whole system.
Well, they felt the election was rigged.
6th of January, gleefully seized upon, particularly.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was election day.
Oh,
and before and after.
Uno reverso.
That was, to me, the
Uno reverso.
And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened, but also the other side had some very bad things happen.
Some bad things happened.
Fry 'em like bacon. And that was about our police, our great police. Beautiful bus being removed from the White House. When I got there, I said,
where is America in the world right now?
I think it's at the lowest point it's ever been at.
There's rumours that the reason that Prince Philip died is because of Donald Trump.
I
want Donald Trump to call Meghan a racial slur.
And been used
he's so close, it's on the tip of his tongue. Just say it, Trump.
And Antifa, bad.
Okay, let's focus now, because I need to get into this fucking Trump video. Trump and Farage, two of my favourite characters. So, we got 2 for 1. We've got Farage and Trump, and it's on GB News. So this should be a good content. Let's get into it, okay? Ooh, fancy. I love the way... Wait a sec, I know I've literally just started watching it. I love the way he just comes in. Has anyone done a Donald Trump Sigma edit yet? Because this would be a prime candidate. He just comes in and stands. Look, he stands. Oh. Hey. Oh. Welcome to Chud. Wait. Sorry, I know I keep doing a pause, Andy. Can I just point something out here a sec, right? Are they trying to make him look like the bad guy? I thought this was supposed to be positive for Donald Trump. He looks like a bad guy. He looks like an evil presence haunting the White House. I'll come up with this graphic. Yeah, that looks fine. You sure? You sure that doesn't make him look a bit evil? Nah, that'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I don't know. It looks like he's kind of like, you know, haunting. What is it? There's a spectre haunting the White House. The spectre of Donald Trump. I mean, that's kind of true, isn't it?
From the moment in 2015 when he announced he was going to run to become US president, Donald Trump has been in world news. He's dominated world news. Every day for 5 years, all over the world, it was Donald Trump has said this. Donald Trump is alleged to have said that, and what other people said about him. Yet something very odd has happened. Since
okay, listen, sorry, you know me, okay? This is why I think I'm the true Sigma. I just see little details, right? Why are his trousers so far up that we can see his entire socks? What size? Is this guy wearing the right size? Is Nigel wearing the right size trousers? It looks like they're riding up. He's not short of a few bob. Maybe he just likes it like that. Maybe he just likes it so when he stands up, his like trousers just are like, you know, above his ankles. I like his socks, though. They look like Paul Smith socks. Bet they cost a few bob. That's how Sigmas wear them. Okay. Oh, sorry. I said trousers as well. It's not trousers, it's pants for you Yankoids. I need to remember that. Wait, Trump's got... Are these Cuban heels? Has Trump got Cuban heels on? Oh, my God. Is that what they're called? Cuban heels? This man is a style icon. Is it because... Is he short? I don't know what his height is.
At the beginning of this year, outside the United States, he's virtually disappeared. Has he been silenced? Is it voluntary? Oh. What is going on? Well, today, we're going to find out. We're going to break that. And the first big foreign interview that Donald Trump has done, this is Trump Speaks to the World with me, Nigel Farage, here on GB News. Good to see you.
Well, I didn't know I was so quiet, but if you say so, that's okay with me.
Yeah, and I wonder, is that because of social media to a very, very large extent?
I don't know. I mean, I have not heard that, but it's possibly so. I have a lot of things to say, and sometimes I want to say them, and sometimes I don't feel it's appropriate to say them based on the position. We had a great election. We ended up, it was a rigged election, unfortunately. We got more votes than any sitting president in history by far, 75 million votes, more than 12 million that we had from the previous election, which was about 63 million votes. I think we've said a lot about a lot of things, and certainly there's a lot to talk about if you look at what's going on in Afghanistan with the withdrawal, which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And if you look at our borders, what's happening with our borders, you look at the cost of energy, we were energy independent, and we no longer are. You look
Why did he pick Afghanistan? That's so random. He's talking about the election. Well, you got to think about Afghanistan too. Where did that come from?
So many different things. You and I could talk all day.
Yeah.
And it's a shame what's happened to the United States.
What was that? He just went, yeah. What was that? Yeah.
Afghanistan with the withdrawal, which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And you look at our borders, what's happening with our borders. You look at the cost of energy, we were energy independent, and we no longer are. You look at so many different things.
Trump.
You and I could talk all day.
Yeah.
And it's a shame what
Just go, yeah. What the fuck?
has happened to the United States.
But we've not heard you through, I guess, through Twitter. It was for you, you know, something that you used to massive effect. Oh, Jack Dorsey is being removed as CEO of Twitter because of shareholder pressure, but whether that means they'll improve as a channel or not. I mean, I was amazed the day that the Taliban, you mentioned Afghanistan a moment ago, the day the Taliban took over Kabul, I did put out a message that said it seemed ridiculous that their leadership was still active on Twitter, and yet you were still banned.
Well, they were wrong in what they did, and we're dealing with the United States president, who's obviously a popular...
I mean, look, I'm going to be real with you, okay? If the Taliban are more capable of following Twitter's terms of service than Donald Trump is, I mean, that's a pretty sad state of affairs for Donald Trump, though. I mean, it's the Taliban, for God's sake. Oh, God, I saw a really funny Taliban video earlier. Where is it? Oh, it was so funny. I don't know if I saved it or not, though. It was extremely misogynistic, as most of them are. I can't find it, though, so we'll have to save that for another time, I guess.
Popular president based on everything that you see, and them and Facebook, and I think they made a big mistake. I think if they had it to do over again, they wouldn't be doing it. We are... we get the voice out. We have to do it. We have an obligation to do that. But he's leaving. I guess it was probably enforced because they're down. And also, there's no excitement on Twitter anymore, as I understand it. There used to be a lot of excitement. Not only me, conservative people are leaving and being canceled. So they're canceled, they're leaving. And in my case, we used to get tremendous interaction with liberals and everybody else.
True. Donald Trump's account was a hive for liberal activity. The amount of liberal reply guys he had is so true. That's so true. Do you remember, Sir, this is a Wendy's. Jeff Tiedrick. I think I'm one of the only streamers on their YouTube channel that's got a video about Jeff Tiedrick on there. Because Jeff Tiedrick is hilarious to me. Well, what Jeff Tiedrick does now is he either scaremongers about the fringe far-right Republicans that are out there, or he occasionally posts about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, so just to keep his awe in, I guess, or say, well, the email lady was right about everything, wasn't she, and stuff like that.
And now they just say it's a very boring place to be, Twitter. It's going down. The numbers are going way down.
That's it.
No, they are. On the election, as you say, you got 11 million votes more than you got in 2016. Because we know what happened. 29th of February last year, I was with you backstage at CPAC, and I thought he's going to win 40 states. I mean, things were looking terrific. The pandemic hit. And then you kind of got criticized from both sides. Biden said you were xenophobic because you closed the borders. You said we don't want foreign air travel. We don't want this virus being brought in. The other side said you didn't lock down hard enough. I mean, difficult in a pandemic to win as a president, as a leader. But the real effect, of course, was, for the first time...
Cope. That's pure cope. Come on. The question would be, if you're the leader during a pandemic, why is it difficult to win? Surely there's going to be you would have had some impact on that because of your handling of it. And I don't think I think a lot of countries closed their airports and whatnot, or foreign travel without getting called racist. It was the fact that Trump called it the C virus. I don't know if I can say it. Like, is YouTube gonna demonetize me for being racist again? I don't know. New Zealand is racist. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Ever in America, tens of millions of ballots being sent out through the mail system.
Well, they use COVID, or the China virus, as I call it.
Oh my God! He just did it. He just did it then.
Rob and rig and steal an election. And they sent out millions and millions of ballots. Nobody knows where they went in so many cases. And it was a disgrace. And everybody knows it. You look at even polls now, a big percentage of our country knows it. And it's very bad for democracy. Very, very bad for democracy.
The problem was in so many of these states, because they'd never seen it before, kind of what they did in collecting the votes wasn't against the law, and that was part of the problem.
Well, but they didn't get it approved in many cases by legislatures, and you have to, so therefore...
I mean, look. Oh my God. I can't believe we're talking about... I mean, I suppose it is a Trump interview. My understanding of it, right, is that, like, all of these cases went to court. All of these cases ended up being investigated further and looked into. And even with, like, all the legal pressure and the financial backing that Trump was able to muster, they weren't able to find anything, right? Or there was a few marginal cases where there was, like, maybe a few thousand votes here or there that they kind of clarified on. And in some cases, it actually benefited the Democrats rather than the Republicans. To this day, unless anyone's got anything different for me. Yeah, a bunch of judges threw a bunch of the cases out too because of how poorly put together they were. Yeah, the most scrutinised election in history. Yeah. Yeah, the mainstream media misses Trump, that's for sure.
It is against the law. Wasn't approved by state legislatures. You know, you can't do it even through a court. You can't do it. It has to go through the legislature. And the legislatures didn't approve this stuff. And the courts didn't have the courage to take it up.
Oh.
And so it's an interesting situation. But
No, it is.
we'll see how it all ends out.
I mean, a lot of Americans, as you rightly say, a lot of Americans are genuinely concerned about election integrity. And I have to tell you, from my experience back in the UK, mass postal voting, leads to the wrong results very often.
Absolutely.
Wait, what? Oh, that is a massive claim. What the fuck? Has he got any examples he's going to give or what? Jesus Christ. Listen. I've got no idea what he's talking about. I don't know of any significant cases of, like, postal voting causing massive electoral issues in the UK. This could be this could be cope because Farage has, like, lost a whole bunch of elections. He's won some too, to be fair, but bit of a Freudian slip.
Automatically, by the way.
It's a bad system.
They cheat.
It's a bad
automatic.
system.
I mean, they put everybody on the millions of people on the honor system. No, there's tremendous cheating with that. And, they've done studies on it. Everybody knows it. Every study comes out, you can't do it through the mail. You can't do it. These mail-in ballots are a disaster. Whether it's your country, whether it's the USA.
Wait.
It's...
I mean, listen, I'm not an expert on the studies on it. I don't think that's true at all. They're all saying it. All the scientists are saying you can't do it. You can't do it. Mail-in voting, you can't do it. I've never fucking seen this before. Yeah, this is cope. Remember after the election, there was all the post-election copium. That was so fun. I really enjoyed that. But we're still seeing it now. That's just sad. This is a terminal case.
But here's the problem.
Open invitation to cheat.
But here's the problem. I've seen some pretty extensive private polling that suggests that up to 20% of your potential voters and supporters feel so demotivated by the message that it's been rigged, that it's not fair, that it's not just, that in Georgia, for example, in that special election, which was the one that tipped the balance in the Senate, there were a number that perhaps didn't go out to vote who would have done because they felt disgusted with the whole system.
Well, they felt the election was rigged, the preceding election, which was the presidential election. Yeah. And then when they had to vote a couple of months later, they really did lose their enthusiasm. And frankly, rightfully so. They had the governor of Georgia did a terrible job, like just terrible, having to do with election integrity. And yeah, they felt an election was rigged and stolen. And I would say they didn't have the enthusiasm.
I love this is real Chad energy, isn't it? Like, clearly as soon as the election was done, he checked out, right? He had no concern about whether the Republicans had the power. So he was just like the Georgia election. Oh, unlucky. Damn, oof. Oof, sorry that I've brought about, sorry that I played a part in bringing about, this terrible doubt in the institutions, but it is what it is. A true Sigma never admits defeat. It's just the way he's so like, yeah, well, they're rightfully so. He just doesn't give a shit, does he? It's so brilliant. Like, Donald Trump probably had some sort of, impact. He probably had some sort of measurable impact on the, how many Republican people came out to vote. And he's just like, well, they're rightfully pissed off. Even though the shit he was pushing was a load of nonsense. What a Chad, honestly. Holy shit.
Enthusiasm to go out and vote. And I understand that. Now, one other thing. Mitch McConnell did a terrible job because this guy's talking about $600 giving during this troubled time, giving, and they're talking about $2,000. You don't win elections that way. Now, right or wrong, you just don't win elections that way. So Mitch McConnell was a disaster. And I think that really they did get a lot of votes, but a lot of people were discouraged. There's no question about
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure of that. So looking ahead, from here, is the message to look back at November 2020 and to condemn and criticise much of what happened? Yeah. Or is the message to look forward and try and make sure that weakness in the system can't exist again?
I think it's both. I think it has to be both. We have a base in Alabama, as an example. I had 69,000 people recently show up. Wherever I go, I think I'm getting bigger crowds now at the rallies, and you know the rallies because you've been to plenty of them. Yeah. I have the biggest crowds I've ever had. And I think it has to be both, because if you don't study what took place and do something about it, if possible, I think they're going to do something about it. I don't view that as a foregone conclusion. If you don't look back, you really can't look to the future. But I think it's really a combination of both. And very strong to the future, but also it's very strong looking back. People don't want that to happen again.
No, and voter ID. I mean, for example,
voter ID is very
there's
important.
An overwhelming majority, and it's not just Republican voters, it's Democrat voters who think voter ID makes sense and we've got to have free and fair
Right. If we didn't
elections.
as an example, if we didn't have what happened in 2020, all of these legislatures and all of these people that are meeting and passing voter ID now would have never happened. So, looking back is okay. You have to look both ways, but you can't forget about what happened. And if you did, you wouldn't have all of the things that are happening now happen. And there's some very exciting things. But one of the big things is voter ID. And you have to stop the mail-in voting. The mail-in voting is just ripe for fraud, and that's what it was.
Well, I'm keen to look ahead with this conversation. One last point about the past. 6th of January, which is something that your opponents gleefully seized upon, particularly, the social media giants on the West Coast and everybody else. And I know.
Listen, I wish he would just, I wish that he would just come out and say, like, yeah, it was based. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a bloody good show. I wish more people had turned up. Or if he was like, I wish they'd strung up Mike Pence. That if he just fucking said something blunt like that, that would be just chef's kiss.
No. That you were willfully misquoted in terms of what you'd said that day. Because
in many different ways.
No, you were saying go in peace, and I understand that, and I get that. Looking back on the 6th of January, was it a mistake to have had that rally on that day?
Well, I didn't have, that was a rally that was there. And if you look, it was a massive rally with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. I think it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And I reverse it. The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day.
Oh,
and before and after.
Uno reverso.
That was, to me, the
Uno
insurrection.
reverso.
And the January 6th was a protest. But if you would have looked at the crowds, the size, nobody wants to talk about that. I believe it was the biggest and most people, and I've spoken to very big crowds. I have never spoken in front of a crowd that size. Nobody ever talks about that. And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened, but also the other side had some very bad things happen.
Some bad things happened.
And add this.
Oh, my God, I love it.
I offered 10,000 and suggested 10,000 National Guardsmen. We want the National Guard to be there, 10,000, or even the military, because I knew the crowd was going to be massive, because I knew the anger that took place over the election being rigged, and I understood that. I understood it better than anybody. And Pelosi and these people turned it down. We would have had tremendous security, but they turned it down.
And that would have stopped people going into
Oh,
the
that would
Capitol
have, well, it would have stopped any problem. Absolutely. They turned it down. Also, as you know, the police, I guess they say, were not given proper instructions by Capitol Hill, which is Pelosi. They were given some very bad instructions. So if you look at what happened and go back and really study it, they were so angered and so upset. And so, people crying. They were so angered by it. Now, if you lost the election, people don't act that way. But they knew that we won the election, and they went there. But to me, the real insurrection, if you look at it, took place on Election Day.
Now, either way, we've got Biden and Harris in office.
Wait.
And they've got plummeting poll ratings.
Talk about January 6th more. That's the interesting thing. Okay, maybe he's going to get some absolutely banging roasting on Biden. Let's have a listen.
And we've got a border crisis, as you quite rightly said, law and order, the Black Lives Matter movement, which is now becoming increasingly, I think, political, don't you?
It's shocking that it started off, with pigs in a blanket, right? You know that, right?
Yeah.
You know the expression, fry them like bacon. And that was about our police, our great police.
Oh my God, that's like a 2016 anti-SJW meme. I remember watching videos back in 2016, and it was like, Ben Shapiro or whatever, or whoever, Paul Joseph Watson would play a clip of some Black Lives Matter people marching, and they'd say that. Oh my God, that is like, he's bringing back the classics. Love it. He immediately went for shitting on Capitol to police. He immediately talked about BLM being so cruel to the police.
And all of a sudden this becomes mainstream? I don't really think so. And Antifa, bad, very bad. And they had Antifa in that rally. They had Antifa leading a lot of people on that day on January. And I will say that it's pretty incredible that nothing happens to them. But the other side, this has been going on for many years.
So they're not just about racial equality then?
Well, I think they're about politics, but I think they're about a lot of...
That's a bit of a leading question. These guys, listen, I know it was going to be softball, but Jesus Christ. So they're not about racial equality, are they, Donald?
Other things. If you go back to their original founding and what they were saying, kill the police. What they're saying is kill the police.
I know.
And that becomes mainstream. Not good.
No, not good. We've seen specimens of it, of course, over in the UK, and we've
yeah.
seen Churchill's statue defaced and all of these things.
Well, you saw Churchill's beautiful bust being removed from the White House. When I got there, I said, send it back. They called, would you like to have the bust of...
Send it. Winston Churchill's beautiful bust. Donald Trump sat there. Can't get fucking Winston Churchill's wonderful bussy off his mind. It's all he can think about. He's like, listen, that bust of Winston Churchill, bring it back to the White House. It makes me think of his bussy, and I like that. You can't even jerk off to Churchill's bust of the White House. This political correctness gone bad.
I used to love it back in the day when human rights movements wasn't all about politics.
Hey, thanks very much for the bits, Jonah. I'm going to bust all over that chassis, that's for sure. Yo, Donald, do you want us to bring back this bust of Winston Churchill? I'm going to bust all over that chassis, that's for sure. There's your clip.
Winston Churchill, a great one, right?
Yep.
Even you would say that,
Yeah,
Nigel.
absolutely.
And I said, I absolutely want it explained. And as you know, President Obama, I believe, sent it back. He didn't want it. And I said, let's bring it back.
No, well, Joe Biden got rid of it on the first day. Which
did he? Oh,
yeah.
no.
Which is why,
I'm
of
not
course,
surprised.
there's been no advancement with trade deals and all the rest of it.
Why would you do that with Winston Churchill and you're trying to get along with your country and you send, it's such a token, but such an important token. No, I had it back for my entire time. It was there. I looked. He was a very handsome man.
He's a very brave man, too. But Biden, G7. Biden turns up at the G7, and this was before he let everybody down in Afghanistan.
That's ugly, is it?
Which leaves us wondering, where is America in the world now? I mean, we've got big threats, haven't we? We've got a lot of Russian troops on the Ukrainian border. Yep. We've got China, ever more bellicose in their statements about Taiwan. We've got Iran. I mean, can you believe it? Negotiations are going on this week with Iran, and the Israelis are very, very scared. Where is America in the world right now?
I think it's at the lowest point it's ever been at. I don't think it's ever been.
The lowest point it's ever been at. Okay, interesting.
In a position like this, we're not respected anymore. I will tell you, there were no planes flying over Taiwan. And the name wasn't even mentioned. You didn't talk about Taiwan when I was president. It wasn't going to happen, what they're doing now. And they'll wait till after the Olympics, I assume, and perhaps something will happen. But it's not good if you're there and you have bombers flying over your country constantly, which is constant. With Russia, we had no problem. I had no problem. You didn't mention North Korea, Kim Jong-un.
No, when you crossed the line and you
I got along with him great. I got along with him almost as well as I
Little Rocket Man, you called him.
I did. But then we became very friendly, like you. Sort of like you.
He forgave you.
But you know, the truth, we
It's so weird to think of him talking about it on these terms, right? Yeah, we were best buds. Oh my God.
have a problem, and now you've got a problem with them too. You didn't mention that one, and honestly, that's a big problem because he does have serious nuclear power, and many other things. If you take a look at energy independence, we're energy independent, first time ever, and now we are going and begging for oil. We're going back begging for oil. We go to Saudi Arabia, we go to Russia, OPEC. We go and say, please give us oil. We had so much oil, we didn't know what to do with it. A gallon of gasoline was $1.87 when I left. Now it's going to be $7.50 in California.
Yeah.
And the big thing is going to be inflation, because the inflation, and it's hitting you too. It hits everybody now. But the inflation is at a level maybe that we haven't seen for, I guess, 40, 50 years.
40 years.
It's a big problem.
And yet the strange thing is, Boris Johnson, and you've always been very generous about Boris Johnson, and you wanted to see the agony of Brexit not being completed. We wanted to see that got over the line, and it was. And yet Boris Johnson seems to have bonded with Joe Biden over wind energy, over net zero, over COP26 in the most extraordinary way. What do you make of these promises for net zero?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. And I think wind is a horrible thing for Scotland. And I got to see it because I own great properties in Scotland and Ireland. And I look at these magnificent fields with these horrible windmills all over them. And windmills is a nice term, I guess turbines. And they're starting to rust because once they're there for a couple of years, they start to rust and wear out and look terrible, look even worse. And I'm looking at it, and you know, you're talking about a place that really has a lot of energy in so many different ways. You have a lot of hydro, but you have a lot of energy. And when I look at all of these things that need subsidy, because they don't work without subsidy, they need subsidy.
Listen, I don't know, is wind any good or not? I don't really, I don't know much about the wind. Is wind a good thing? In terms of like, for the thing? I don't, you know what I mean? Is it good or bad? What are we dealing with?
And what so many countries, not just your country, not just UK, it's all over the place. You fly over, I'm saying, what a shame what they've done. Well, and you know that environmentalists are liking this stuff. I think they hate the world.
Boris says we're going to be the Saudi Arabia of wind, which is all well and good when the wind blows.
I think it's a shame. I'm in Aberdeen. They built this ugly wind farm in the ocean. It's so disgusting to look at it. It's a shame. I built one of the most beautiful, one of the greatest golf courses. It's been so reviewed in the world. And now you look at, you know, not very far off. You know, when these things are 20 and 30 stories tall, the monsters, they can be far out, and they're not far out. They're right on top of you. No, I think it's a shame what's happened in Scotland, in UK, all over the place. You take a look. I think Ireland's been better about it. If you want to know the truth, they've been tougher. And other countries are getting tougher. But wind is the most expensive form of energy. And remember, every 10 years you have to replace those monsters. And a lot of times they don't bother. You know what they do? They just let them rot. They kill all the birds.
No, but Boris
is so bad.
But Boris is he's hooked
on
this.
Wrong. Boris is wrong. If he's going heavy into wind, I mean, you're telling me, but if he's going heavy into wind, he's wrong. He's making a big mistake.
He is. You've always been nice about him, but he's.
No, I like him. I get along with him. I've always gotten along with him. He's gone a little bit on the more liberal side, But I'll tell you, with energy, I'm surprised that he would allow that to happen, because you have one of the most beautiful countries in the world and you're destroying it with all these wind turbines all over the place.
Yeah, well,
And you don't need them.
I have to say, I'm not a great fan of them. And net zero, what does net zero mean? I mean, if the Biden administration, if the Democrats were to stay in for the next 20 or 30 years, what would that mean for the American
I think the
economy?
carbon taxes that they want to put on countries and people and companies, I think it's ridiculous. And look, we have, in our case, liquid gold. They're taking it away from us by not letting us use it. It's liquid gold. And that
Is he talking about oil? Is he calling oil liquid gold? Is he just... Oh, is it fracking? Oh, no, it's oil. It is oil. Liquid gold. Let me drink the forbidden liquid gold. Trump's like, bring me more liquid gold. Trump, we've told you can't keep drinking oil, okay? You can't keep drinking crude oil. It's gonna kill you. It's very dangerous. Bring me the liquid gold at once. The liquid nectar. Oh, that's the good stuff.
natural gas is very clean. It works out very well. But you have clean coal even. But we have resources in the U.S. that are incredible. And the enemy is making us feel badly about it and taking it away, putting our companies at a big disadvantage. We were at a position the likes of which we've never seen just a year ago, and now people can't get gasoline for their car, or if they do, they have to pay so much. It's very sad. Now, in your country, which I do know something about, I own Turnberry, I own great properties in your country. Yeah. I mean, just great properties. I love it. I love your people. I love everything about it. I got along great with Boris, but I see what they're doing, and I think they're making a tremendous mistake.
You also got on well with the Queen. You really enjoyed it. You really enjoyed that,
I think she's a fantastic woman. She is a fantastic woman. I was supposed to spend like a half an hour with her. I ended up being there for much more than an hour, and everyone said, "Oh, that's so rude." But I said, "No, but she liked it, and I liked it. I'm not going to be rude." And we had a great time together. God. We then had an evening the likes of which you rarely would see, and I think she was laughing and smiling. We got a lot.
Yeah, there's rumors that the reason that Prince Philip died is because of Donald Trump cucking him. So the story goes that Donald Trump cucked Prince Philip by having sex with Queen Elizabeth II. Okay? And the very second that Prince Philip died, what went through his head is an image of the Queen being, basically Donald Trump arriving, if you see what I mean, yeah? AKA cream pie, right? So that's the last thing Prince Philip sees in his head. And as revenge, as he died and became a ghost, he decided to take residence in a certain place. So now the Queen's pussy is haunted by the ghost of Prince Philip. And that, according to my sources, is what happened. According to sources from the royal family, is what happened.
Along great. We talked the whole night. She is a great, wonderful woman.
Yeah, well, she's been there nearly 70 years now on the throne.
Yeah,
it's incredible, and she's still head of state in Canada, Australia. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And respected by everyone.
Yeah.
And no scandal, no anything. Think of it. She's done this for more than 70 years, and she's never had scandal about herself.
No.
No scandal, no anything. She's an incredible woman.
No, and she's had a very tough year. You know, she lost her husband this year.
Tough year.
You know, they were married over 70 years, and she's been ill. She's, had to withdraw from one or two public engagements.
Hopefully not very ill, though. I've been watching it closely because I love her. I think she's great. My mother was born in Scotland.
Oh,
my mother she came over here
watching her closely, yeah, thinking about that night of passion.
About 19 years old, met my father. They were married for many, many years. They were married they had a great marriage. But she left Scotland. She'd go back once a year religiously. But she was really somebody that respected the Queen. She loved the Queen. Anything with the Queen. When they were doing anything ceremonial, as an example, she'd be glued to the television. But she had great respect and love for the Queen.
I ain't having Donald Trump sloppy seconds, all right? It ain't happening.
Queen.
Well, and hundreds of millions around the world.
That's true.
Respect this woman. True. I mean, in the most astonishing way. And I know your enthusiasm for it. Yet her son, Charles, who would be the natural successor, And you had a meeting with Charles, and it was reported by one of your former press secretaries that you were somewhat bored by the meeting.
That I was?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't bored. I liked Charles. I thought he was great. No, he's an environmentalist. He talked about the environment most of the meeting, which was fine. I mean, I understood that was the purpose of the meeting.
Bit
He was
boring.
telling me his views. I was not bored at all. No, I think Charles is a wonderful person.
Okay. Now, somebody you may not think is quite as wonderful is a recent British export to America.
Oh,
And I think we're kind of quite pleased to
Here
have
we
got rid of
go.
him, really. Is
Here we
Prince
go.
Harry, of course,
Oh.
and Meghan living over here, being
I want Donald Trump to call Meghan a racial slur. I want nothing more than that to happen right now. That would make my whole year.
not only disobliging about you at every given opportunity, but actually the entirety of the Conservative movement. And now we hear that she's ringing up senators, ringing up members of Congress, lobbying for law changes, and doing some of this on headed paper that says the Duchess
Yeah.
of Sussex. And we saw the Oprah Winfrey interview, and it turned out later a lot of what she said simply just wasn't true.
Yeah.
Should she go into American politics?
I'm not a fan of hers. I wasn't from day one. I think Harry has been used horribly. I think someday he will regret it. You know, a lot of people are saying I'm very good at the prediction business.
Oh, here we
I
go.
think someday he will regret it. He probably does already. But I'm not a fan of hers at all. And I think she's very disrespectful to the Queen that we just spoke about, who's such a great woman, who's such a great person.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Maybe this is obviously for the old boomers. Most British people don't care this deeply about the monarchy to this level of like analysis, right? Most people are probably just like, oh, yeah, the Queen's all right, and I don't know. There's some boomers that are into it hardcore, but like if you look at the vast swaths of the UK, a lot of them are just going to be like whatever. Yeah, like who cares about Meghan Markle? Like literally no one really cares that much.
A historic person. I think she's very disrespectful to the royal family. But maybe most importantly to the Queen. And I just, from day one, I never got it. I see her, I listen to her.
Oh.
She's trying to do things
Oh.
that I think are inappropriate,
Oh.
very inappropriate. But I think Harry's been used and been used
Oh,
terribly.
he's so close, it's on the tip of his tongue. Just say it, Trump. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it. Oh my God.
his relationship with his family.
Completely.
And it's really, really, I think it hurts the Queen.
Yeah, and you can't use a royal title and get involved
Well,
in
I didn't know
American
she was
affairs.
doing that, but
well,
certainly
no, she has been doing it.
It's not appropriate.
Let's finish off back here in America. Big victory. Youngkin, big victory the other week. Virginia, he won that race, won it very, very comfortably to be the governor. And what was interesting, I thought, was he was actually getting votes in northern Virginia. And he was getting votes very much on just ordinary parents living in suburbia that don't want their kids taught critical race theory.
It's true. They're not believers.
Oh my
Don't
God,
want
getting
their
sick.
kids to be told America's rubbish.
Right.
You did well with your base. Phenomenal. I've never seen support like it. You did well with the black community.
And by the way, Youngkin, who's a very good man, did very well with my base. And I did a tele-town hall call, had massive numbers of people on that call get out and vote. And my base got out and voted for him. And that was a great victory for the Republican Party. And we have many other great victories that night. We swept the land. We had
They were
we
big
had
results.
tremendous success.
They were big results.
It's really great. Things are happening.
You got the black vote up significantly for the Republicans. That was a big achievement.
I did.
You had a problem in suburbia. Suburban voters were a bit reluctant. Maybe they found.
See, I don't believe that. I think I did very well there. And the other thing,
Okay.
I did great with Hispanic.
Chud.jpg. Just deny reality. Just be like, no, I did well there actually. Even Nigel Farage is a bit like, oh, all right. You wasn't expecting that.
The Hispanic vote, for me, is legendary, the numbers. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. A report came out literally an hour ago talking about how well I've done with the Hispanic vote. A number that nobody's ever had before as a Republican. A number that's really game-changing. It's a they're great people.
Yeah, and yet they, of course, who've come legally to America.
That's right.
Just as we have a border crisis, we've got these little boats crossing the English Channel.
Oh,
You've got the southern
get it
border
in there.
crisis. I was down in Arizona in May looking at it. I couldn't believe the scale of it.
I couldn't believe. I messed it up. I'm ill. Okay, don't. It is what it is. Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say is he went down there. He was like, I cannot believe the amount of brown people there are. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this before. Little boat skate, yeah.
How big a political issue? Because in the UK, our border issue is becoming the #1 political issue. How big is it here?
So I got elected in 2016 because of the border and other things. And in 2020, I didn't talk about the border. You know why? Because I did such a good job, it was no longer an issue. But still, I got many more votes. So, you know, I guess it wasn't as important. Now it's the biggest issue again.
Yeah.
But now it's worse than it ever was in the history of our country. We never had a problem like we have now with the border. I did the best job. We had the best border situation in the history of our country, just like I created the best economy in the history of our country. But we had the best border.
Wait, I literally, is that even true? Is that even true? Like, I know there was a lot of talk about Trump's border. Wasn't there like a bunch of problems? Listen, I'm not really prepped to like debunk everything Trump says. I'm just enjoying the memes. But I don't think that's true, is it? Is it? He literally just fires off misinformation at an astounding rate, doesn't he? Is he gaslighting us?
And now we have, a year later, the worst border. Millions of people are coming in unvetted, unchecked. It's a disgrace what's happened. It's a very big issue.
Yeah, but it is for us too. Should we stop the boats coming across the English Channel, in our case?
Let me work about the mark. How about if I just work on...
You sort this border out first.
Let me solve this problem.
It is. So here you are.
Oh my God. Trump just absolutely cucks Nigel Farage there. Nigel Farage is like trying to get an answer out of him. Should we stop the boats? He basically, I don't give a shit about that. Listen, Nigel, shut the fuck up, okay? I don't give a shit about your border. It's my border that I'm concerned about.
At Mar-a-Lago, magnificent place. You've got your family around you. You've had so many great things you've done in your life, you know, business, real estate, television. You've been the 45th president of the United States, and yet from day one, they made your life hell. The Russia hoax, a whole load of conspiracies, untruths. You know, I saw you during some of that going through it. They put you through impeachments, mainstream media.
Two fake impeachments, Russia, which now turned out to be a total hoax.
Yep.
And everybody knows it. And they should take away the Pulitzer Prizes from writers that knowingly, in most cases, were writing about fiction. It was pure fiction.
Yeah.
Turned out that.
And Hunter Biden can do what he likes and no one cares. And we know all that. Why?
Wait a second, though. There was obviously like Russiagate was overblown, right? There was like a massive, wasn't it just like bot accounts and stuff that were like trying to exert some influence over the election? Was there like a proven link to like the Russian state with that? God, all that Russia stuff, it's just cringe. Anyway, that's the lib go-to. Fuck Russiagate. I can't be bothered.
Would a man who's got all the things that you've got?
Yeah. It was over sensationalized. That's my exactly right. So. That's my perception of it, is there were some genuine concerns and issues, but they over-sensationalized it. Yeah, like the compromat. What was it, the compromat? There were 13 Russian state actors indicted, so it wasn't totally fake.
Be your best question.
Why would a man who's got all the things you've got, great family, wonderful life, you're fit, you're looking fit, why on earth would he consider going back into that hell again?
So I love our country. I brought the country to a level it's never seen before. Then we had COVID come in, and then I brought it back, came up with vaccines that you're using, we're all using, the world is using, saved tens of millions of people throughout the world in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 12 years. Just heard the other day, they were expecting it to take 12 years. And everyone said it wasn't going to work, and they work incredibly well. We've done an amazing job. If you love the country, you have no choice. It's not a question. It's just, this is a wonderful, beautiful life. But I like that too because I was helping people. That's why I did it. And I think you'll be happy in the future too, because that'll be your next question, but you'll be happy in the future.
Well, I know you can't answer that question because it would start the campaign clock ticking.
Right.
But we've got the midterms coming up in less than a year. Are you going to be out on the campaign trail?
Yes, I will. I'll be helping a lot of people. We've been endorsing candidates. I'm 152 and 2. My endorsement, 152 wins and 2 losses. Okay. And those 2 losses were actually by people that were The people that won were more Trump than I was, okay? So they won. But what happened is, what's happening is everybody, once the endorsement has become very important, the most important and the most powerful endorsement that our country has seen. And so I have an obligation to make sure the right people get in. And we have many, many people online. Actually, when I leave here right now, I've got 4 candidates that want an endorsement. It's a very important job because we're going to have I think we're going to have a very big 22, and I think we're going to have an even bigger 24.
Donald Trump, thank you for joining us on GB News.
Thank you.
Let's go. That was great. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that a lot. That was great fun. Who else enjoyed that? I thought that was banging content, honestly. Is the editor just the child slave you once said you owned?